Joining me now is the former public safety director for Pritchard. Of course, Mike Rowland, at the time, you were the interim police chief when little Hiawayi Robinson was reported missing. I mean, you were there from day one.
Yes, I was, and you know, it's good to see that there's some closure in this case and that we're moving forward with it. And I know that the community is going to be able to move forward and to heal from this.
Well, the mayor, Mike Ephraim, just talked about that, hoping that the community can move forward. But one of the things that we're seeing on our social networking sites right now is just the surprise to the charges in this case. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the charges. You know, having been involved in the investigation from the very beginning, it was clear that there was some sexual assault there, and so it doesn't surprise me that that the charge of sodomy was ultimately brought in this particular case. And I think it's later on when the details of the case come out that the issue of that sodomy will be very important toward the murder itself.
So by all accounts, you guys were always looking at him in connection to this.
Well, you know, we were looking at a number of different people, and certainly we were looking at him from the initial investigation. But you know, we're kind of obligated in law enforcement to look at other suspects too, and we were very thorough, I think, in our investigation. I mean, we took DNA samples from virtually everybody we talked to in this case. In this particular investigation, we took well over 200 DNA samples from different people to try to eliminate people as suspects or to identify who the perpetrator was. And so DNA is going to be a very important part of this case, I think, when it goes to trial. And I think that the community is going to start to see that you know, that the police truly did cover all the bases and dot all the I's and cross all the T's in this case.
Now, the DA says that she will ask the judge tomorrow for no bond at his hearing, but she also said that they don't anticipate any additional charges. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's correct. I believed, and I think all the investigators did from the very beginning, that this was a single perpetrator, and so I'm not surprised by the fact that there probably will be any additional charges of anybody else in this particular case.
Do you think that he could be charged, though, with capital murder?
I'm sure that's something that the DA has looked at and may even present to the grand jury when it gets time to go to the grand jury. Right now, what she's going to be doing, I'm sure, is looking at the possibility of just being able to establish the probable cause that he was the suspect in these two crimes of murder and sodomy. And then once it goes to the grand jury, then she'll be able to present more evidence in the grand jury and come out with the final charges, whatever that might be.
Our reporter Rudy Harper was speaking to his mother. You heard her talking there. She was just grief-stricken, but also maintaining her son's innocence. You've met her before.
Right. Well, I've met virtually the entire family at one point or another, and you know, nobody ever wants to believe this about their loved ones, but the evidence, I think, will come out in the case, and I think it'll be very clear to the community that I believe we have the right person. I believe the district attorney believes that, or would not have brought the charges. And I think the entire law enforcement community believes that at this point. And you know, we'll be able to establish those facts when it comes out in court.
Why do you think so many people rallied behind this story? You know, we report on a number of missing children cases and stories about violence towards children, but this one was different.
Yeah, it was. You know, this is just another form, really, of domestic violence. You know, in the city of Pritchard, while I was the chief and the public safety director there, domestic violence was our #1 focus, and one of the reasons was because of this particular case. Sexual abuse is very dominant sometimes in some families, and it's shocking to the community. This was an 8-year-old child, and she didn't really have the opportunity to even live a life. But I think that, you know, what is really the tragedy here is that this could happen in anybody's family. It's just a matter of being able to take care of our children a little bit more, pay attention to where they are and who they're with and those sorts of things. And I think that the community in Pritchard saw that very quickly. And Pritchard is a loving community. It is a very strongly faith-based community, and they love their children and they love their families, and so it struck very close to their hearts, and I think that it's still going to be a shock for them. I think it's going to be a hard thing for them to overcome, but they will overcome it and they'll move forward. And I think this idea of establishing a park for Hiawayi Robinson is more symbolic than just Hiawayi Robinson herself. I think it's symbolic of what the community feels about itself, and I think it's a great thing if the city is able to move forward to do that, to establish that for her.
When this first started, there was a lot of talk about possibly changing how we go about finding missing children, whether the Amber Alert system was effective or not. Do you think that that's something that also could help the community move forward, or do you think it would not have helped in this case?
You know, in this case, I just don't think it would have helped. We took a lot of criticism over that for not establishing an Amber Alert to begin with, and I think we finally explained adequately to the community that it didn't fit the criteria for Amber Alert. Part of the problem, I think, in changing the law is that you don't want to get into a situation in where people are crying wolf. And when I say that, you know, if the child doesn't come home exactly on time and they call the police and say, my child's not home yet, and then the police have to get this level of an investigation. This was a monumental investigation involving hundreds, if not thousands of people involved in the investigation. It cost a tremendous amount of money. There was one time in a meeting with some other agency heads that we found it was very clear we were spending over $1 million a day. And every child is precious, every life is precious. But if you had that level of investigation on every case, it would be such a drain on law enforcement and a drain on the community that I don't know if they could maintain that very long. So I think any adjustment to the law has to be in a reasonable way so that it does not overtax the system itself.
And on the lines of that, when we spoke on the phone prior to you coming in keeping the community safe, one of the first things you said when I asked what was your reaction to this is that you are happy that he is off the streets.
Yeah, you know, and that's exactly right. And I think for the safety of the community and for their own perception of their own safety, it's important for them to realize that this was not a predator who was out riding around snatching kids off the street. That was part of what people were surmising to begin with, that this might be somebody that was patrolling the streets and just taking kids at random. It's not really a consolation to say that you know, you have a person here who killed their own child and basically abducted their own child. But what it does do is say this to the community: this person is off the street. The community is safer tonight than it was last night. And I think that people in the city of Pritchard and people in the entire Mobile community can rest easier knowing that he is in jail and the perpetrator of this case is not a danger to anyone else right now.
All right, on that note, we thank you very much, Mike, for coming in. Pleasure having you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.